Thank you for coming to our Team 360 call. Today is April 18th, and my name is Tanya Landis, and tonight I'm going to be talking to you about building your team. I know a lot of you always say, how do you find business builders? How do you start them? What do you do to be successful in this business? And one of the biggest things that you need to make sure that you're doing is you need to be building a team, and that starts with offering the coaching opportunity to other people and not just trying to do it on your own, because basically you can make money in this business on your own, but you will be working and working and working and working because it'll all be on you. It's all you. But if you build a team, that's a great way to build your business, help other people reach their goals financially, with time, you guys have seen what this opportunity has done for you and what it has done for other people, and offering that opportunity to others is a true gift. So, and that's also a way to have freedom of time. I mean, you guys, that is why I'm able to travel and not have to be tied to my job. Like, I was when I owned my insurance agency. I had to constantly be there because it was all me. Beachbody's not that way. That's the beauty of it. But the thing is it's not like there's a leader sitting at the top that just collects paycheck and isn't doing anything. You actually have to be working. So I like that too. So building a team is very important, and it is also very systematic. And I think a lot of people just go out there and they are like, oh, I don't know how to find business builders. And they go out there with the wrong heart, with the wrong steps, and they're just, and it doesn't work. I know that because I did that. So this is the process that I used, and I have found that it's worked really well for me. And I've been using this process for 3.5 years. So, and that's when I started seeing success. That's when I started seeing my team growth, my team culture. And, I started seeing consistency in my paychecks and retention in my coaches. I do have a high retention rate in my coaches. I have a lot less coaches that fall than a lot of others. And I believe it's because of the process that I follow. So I'm going to share that with you guys tonight. I'm going to share 5 steps of how to build your team and find business builders. And then I'm going to go into briefly on the process that I take them through, because you can burn them out if you don't follow the right steps. And I've systematized everything. So here is the first thing. Number 1 is you need to identify who you want. Write down what type of person you are looking for on your team. So you need to be really specific, okay? And I know a lot of you guys know how to do this with challengers, but you need to know how to do it with coaches too. It's the same thing. So who are they? What do they like to do? What are their hobbies? Do they work full-time? Do they work part-time? Are they a stay-at-home parent? Do they have kids? Are they married? Are they single? Where do they live? Do they live in the city? Do they live in the country? Do they live in the US? Do they live in Canada? Who are they? Where are these people? Be specific. And then write down 5 core values that you want your coaches to have. So I've gone through this exercise with some of you, and I believe this is super important, because if you aren't in sync on your core values, it's going to be a really hard time having them on your team, because you're going to have a lot of disagreements. You're not going to see, you're going to have disagreements anyways because you're human, but they could be violating one of your core values. And so make sure that you know what those are. You can't just go out and willy-nilly be like, all right, well, that person has a pulse, so I'm going to invite them. And then you get the wrong people. So be specific. If you've ever been a manager in a job and hired for a position, you write a job description. You write out the kind of person you want to get. There's a reason for that. You need to do that with coaching. Yes, we are all self-employed, but you are also building a team. You're going to be training these people. So you need to treat it kind of that way. You need to know who you're good for and who you're not good for. Because I will tell you, personally, I am not good for everybody, and everybody's not good for me. Okay, train a certain way. I've got a certain value system. Not everybody agrees with that, and that's okay. They can go be coached by another coach. I've personally had people who have come to me and been like, I want to coach, and I've gotten to know them, and then I've said, you know what? You would actually probably be better served by this person. And they're like, oh, I appreciate that. And I'm like, this is why. And it's not a dig on them or me. It's just I want them to be successful, and I don't want to waste their time or mine. So I am very specific in who I look for, and I'm very careful at, knowing what my core values are. So write down your 5 core values. So those could be things like commitment, having integrity, self-motivated people, hardworking people, it could be a religious belief, whatever it is, write them down and don't be shy about those. You don't have to tell everybody, but just know them in your mind, because you need to know what those values are. And that's also going to help you identify these people. So that's number 1, identify who you want. Write down what type of person, you want on your team. Also do age. Age is really important. I know what age group I'm good for, and I know what age group I'm not good for. And it simply comes down to, I want to make sure I'm serving my coaches the best way that I can. And I don't want them to be frustrated either. So write that down. Number 2, where do these people hang out? Find them. If you know a lot about them, you're like a detective. You can go find them. Well, if there's someone that's a new, I know Jenny. Jenny is in a lot of moms groups, because she had, she's gone through 2 pregnancies during her coaching career. So she's joined new moms groups. She started coaching when she first had her baby, Charlie. And so she was pregnant and everything in coaching. So she joined these moms groups because that was one of her characteristics. And she has this dialed in, which was why she's grown her team. And so she joined moms groups, and she was in doctors groups, because that was another thing that she connected on with. And she wrote down. So those are kind of some ideas. For me, I will, a lot of them hang out at school. I like a lot of the moms at school in my kids' classes. And, and then I also have found people, through shared interests, at, that we it's no secret that I really like fashion. Okay. I'm really into fashion and makeup and things like that. So I connect on that level with other people, and I'll find people there. I also, will find, I attract moms with kids, especially moms who have 3 kids. If you look at a lot of my coaches have 2, 3, 4, 5 kids, 6 kids. Some of them have more than that, because it's crazy chaos all the time. And that's something that we connect on. And so I found a lot of moms that way, through sporting events, through our kids' schools, different things like that. And so you want to know where you find them, and you find your people. And so if you've got them identified, if you did sub number 1, then number 2, you identify where they hang out and go find them and put yourself in those positions. When my kids were little and I was building this business, I would take them to the park all the time, and I met a lot of moms at the park. And I was able to connect with people at the park, because we have these kids running around and you talk to other moms. So just identify where they hang out and make sure you place yourself in those positions, because you're building a community. Think about this. You want to be intentional about who you recruit, because you're building a community. And you all know what happens, because I'm sure you've been in a situation when you get some toxic people in there. You don't want that. It's not worth it. And you have seen, if you're part of my team page, and you've been part of my team page for longer than a month or so, you know what kind of culture has been built. And that has all been intentional. That is not an accident. That is not luck. That is not just throwing crap out there and, seeing who sticks. That literally has been intentional, and it's been the way that I've built the business. So identify where they hang out, get yourself there. Number 3, talk to them. And, when you start talking to them, start forming them. And the reason that you want to start talking to them and finding out about them is you want to see kind of what they're about. Ask them questions about themselves. ask them, people love to talk. And a lot of times, like, you've heard my story. My coach found me at a dance class. She didn't know me. She just started talking to me and she asked me about myself. She asked me a lot of questions. And so I just spilled my guts because here I am, a tired, depressed mom of 3 who nobody's asked how it's doing in like ages. And this person like is asking me how I was doing. I was happy to share it with her. And you'll find most people they'll just start telling you about themselves. People love to talk about themselves. And that's great because you want to get to know them. And, usually in that conversation, I can see if they're going to be, someone I want to have on my team, or maybe I see some red flags. If you see some red flags, if you've got that gut instinct, don't pursue. Okay. I'm just going to tell you right now. I mean, you can be nervous or intimidated because you're like, this person is so awesome. I need to invite them, but I just don't know how. I'm scared. That's different than, I saw on this person's Facebook page that like, every other word that they're using is the F word. And I'm not saying that I'm perfect because I do have a bit of a potty mouth, but when you're putting, your cover photo on Facebook is F off, but all spelled out, that to me is a little bit of a red flag for who probably would, can you imagine how annoyed they'd be being on my team? So I just look for those clues. We have had you all, if you've been around for a while, you've seen those and you're a pretty good judge of character. This is your community. You get to have a hand in designing it. So make sure that you're interviewing these people, you're talking to them, and you're building rapport. And if there's a red flag, just walk away. It's not a big deal. It's not a dig on them. It's not a dig on you. It's just not a good fit. And if you were a manager hiring for a job, it wouldn't be a good fit. So you probably wouldn't hire them, right? Because they didn't meet those standards of the person you were looking for. So that's what I do. The other thing I like to do in that conversation is kind of make sure that they're a coachable person and a teachable person. Something my husband always says, and I've always taken to heart, is you cannot coach into unrequest. So if they are not open to be coached or trained, it's not going to work. They could be the best person in the world. They could fit all of your things, but if they're not open to being coached, you can't, there's nothing you can do. Like you can't. They could say, oh yeah, you can kind of tell with people they are, they like know it all already. So they need to be coachable and teachable. Now, don't mistake that with confidence. Confidence is a great thing, but there is a line. So just make sure they're coachable and teachable. Number 4 is invite them. So you've identified who it is. You found where they are. So you've placed yourself there. Number 3, you're talking to them because you're kind of like interviewing and building rapport. And that doesn't have to take forever, you guys. You can get a pretty good gauge with social media. Go look at their social media. If it's somebody you met in person, you can find a lot out about a person by looking at their Facebook, their Instagram, and their LinkedIn. So go look at those. You have access to that. Google them. Whatever you have to do. But a lot of times we are approaching these people on Facebook, so we already kind of know what kind of, we look through and kind of see what they're doing. But number 4 is invite them. And you can do that through Facebook Messenger, which I've supplied invites that you can use. They're in Team 360. I put them in there yesterday for the Coach Open House. Invite them. You can text them. You can get them on the phone. I am a phone person, and I was actually talking about this with Misty Jackman today. She's like, I talk too much. She says she talks too much, and so she's like, I have to, yeah. So she's like, I realize I'm way better on Messenger because she's like, I just talk too much, and then I overload them because I can't be on the, I have to keep talking because I want to build that social thing. And then she finds that, and I've done this, that they're overwhelmed because she's just talked to them for like an hour. So she's like, I have to reframe and message them. And that's great. Like when you know what works for you, use that. I've done Messenger and phone. I've gotten really good on the phone. I've got my calls down to less than, I've got them around 10 minutes. And so it's like a miracle. But before I used to get on the phone and I'd be like, wow, this is so awesome, blah, 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 blah. And then it'd be an hour later. And I'm like, oh, that was a great call. And I get off and then I wonder why they didn't sign up. So, and it was because I talked to them for an hour and now I don't do that. So figure out what works best for you and make sure that's the avenue you're going, or kind of experiment. You guys, you don't have to be perfect. Another thing that I have learned to do, that I learned from another coach on our big team is, and my leaders are going to laugh, is I have started like voice messaging people on Facebook. You only have a minute, so you better have it down, and invited them. And, I'm experimenting with that. I try new things all the time, you guys. And, but just kind of know like phone, message, text, but I have them, the message is already done for you. With text, I probably, I don't do a lot of that. I've done a little bit of it, but I just say, hey, this is Tanya. I don't know if you'd be interested, but I was just thinking that you might want to, have you ever thought about being a coach? And I know Missy's saying I'll tell you a little story about the voice messenger in a bit. No secret, I have technical issues, you guys. So when I get frustrated with something, I just don't use it. So it's surprising I'm not using a rotary phone. So anyway, make sure that you are keeping it short and to the point. And, also think about, like, you've identified this person. What's the line of communication they would like? Would they like, I find that people, like my age that are almost 40, don't really want to get like a 2-page text. But younger people, that's how they communicate. They don't want to get on the phone. Like my son has a cell phone and he uses no minutes, but oh my Lord, does he use the text messages? Like we have to have unlimited texting. He talks maybe 2 minutes when I call him and say, is everything okay? And he's like, grunts at me. But he'll send me like 2 pages of text. So, and I know it's just different. So when you've identified the person, also kind of think about the line of communication they would probably like, and then contact them that way. But experiment, you guys. You're going to make mistakes. And when you do, you just learn from them and you adjust. So that brings me to point number 5. Point number 5 is you've invited them. You get them into a third-party tool. So if you know how to get someone to coach, I can get someone on the phone and I'm at that point where I can, present the opportunity in like 10 minutes and talk to them about it, answer their questions, and see if it's a good fit. But if you're not there yet, use the coach sneak peek. You are more than welcome to put them in my coach sneak peek, or you can put them in your uplines, whatever needs to be done. But don't try to dump a ton of information on them in a message or anything like that. I would honestly say, like, get them to a third-party tool. And it took me a long time to do that, but that's something that I did, and that's where I learned how to effectively talk to people about the coaching opportunity to build the team. But you do need to do some things behind the scenes. You can't just dump people into the sneak peek and expect me or whoever's running it to take care of them. You need to be checking in with them. You need to say, hey, Misty, I don't know if you'd be interested, but starting this Monday, my team is doing a sneak peek into coaching, and have you ever considered being a coach like I am? I think you would be awesome. If it's something you're interested in and I can get you added to this free group, let me know and I'll add you in. If not, no worries. That's how I word things. And you can stick an emoji on there if you're an emoji person or whatever you want to do, but make it, just something simple. And then when you get them in there, tag them at the bottom on the intro post, which if you're in my sneak peek, you can see a lot of people have done. And then go in and watch their comments. When they comment, you need to take a few minutes. You don't have to stalk the coach sneak peek, but do plan to go in there each day and spend a few minutes and respond to whatever comment they have, so you can acknowledge it or at least like the comment. And if you don't know how to answer their question, message your upline privately and say, Tanya, I don't know how to answer this question. They asked this and blah, blah, blah. And that's okay. I can probably go in and answer that. if you can answer it, just answer it. A lot of times I'll go in to check on the group and, somebody else is already taking care of it. Because I do have a lot of, leaders in there. So, but you just need to make sure you're checking in with them. And usually if I start the group on Monday, I would suggest that you send them a little note like Tuesday night and just say, hey, how's the group? I just want to make sure and see how the group is going for you. Especially if they're not commenting, and say, I just want to make sure you saw it. And then, just periodically, make sure that they've seen it. And if they're not responding and they're not commenting, they're probably disengaged. And just you can say, hey, do you have any questions? But just, you don't have to message them every day. I usually do, if I put them in there, I'll usually send them a message like Tuesday night or Wednesday morning. It's kind of, midway through. And and then I also check in with them on the last day, and I'll say, hey, it's the last day today. I just wanted to see if there were any questions that weren't answered in the group that I can answer for you. And I also want to find out what you thought. You could also just say, hey, I just want to find out what you thought about the group. And they'll tell you. And just, go from there. But don't just dump them and leave them, and don't message them every single day or every single minute. It's, you're limited 2 times that week. Okay, guys, just 2 times is what I would say. So that's what I do, but you also need to be excited. And one thing that we've been talking about, in our accountability group, because I do have an accountability group running, is just building up the belief in people, building whoever's presenting for the third party opportunity, edify them. Say, hey, my coach who has, been a 3-time elite Team Beachbody coach, you probably don't know what that means, but that's a big deal, and is a, consistent 6-figure earner, is doing the sneak peek, and she's sharing how she's built her business. This is an incredible opportunity. You can say something like that, just, because a lot of times new coaches come in and they're like, well, I don't make 6 figures. So what do I have to show for myself? Well, first of all, you probably have made something. So definitely talk about that. When I first started, I talked about how I was able to pay for our groceries. And to be honest, you guys, that's a lot of times what I talk about still. I say, yeah, when I started off, I could pay for our groceries, and then I was able to pay our mortgage. And that was a big deal for our family. And they're like, what? That's huge. So make sure that you are, you don't discount that just because you're not at a certain point that you think you need to be at, because you really you don't have to be there for it to work. You just need to be honest with people and authentic and say, you know what, I'm just starting out, but my upline, Tanya, she's killing it. Or my upline, Misty or Amanda, they're rocking business. Or, Brandy, she's I'm a new coach and I just was able to pay my Shakeology and had extra money last month. That was a huge deal. So you just want to share those things. So that's just my little tip there. But share briefly, not a ton. Because one thing I will tell you is you want to make sure you're the one asking questions, because the one who asks questions is the one who controls the conversation. A lot of times people think it's the person talking, but it's not. Have you ever been talking to someone and they talk and talk and talk and talk, and you're just thinking to yourself, I wish my phone would ring. I wish my kid would start crying. I wish that, I could do anything to get out of this conversation right now. And you don't hear anything they say because they're just talking to you. Don't be that person. Ask questions. Ask people about themselves and find out more about them. Build them up. Learn about them. You want to make sure that you're finding out what problems they have so you can find out how you can solve them. You find out a lot about people when they start talking. A lot of times they start talking to you and they're like, yeah, I'm really, I would really love, to do something, but I'm so busy all the time. Well, why are you busy? Because I work 60 hours a week. Well, do you always work 60 hours a week, or is something going to change with that? No, that's just what I'm going to have to work. That's the kind of job I have. And you're like, well, there are other options. Have you ever considered, coaching? And maybe it's a good way that you could cut your hours down. How much, and I did this with Brandy. Brandy's on this call. She's new and she works a lot. She works a lot of hours. She's a manager of a bank. She has a great job. But you know what? She has 3 little kids that she would love to be home with. And she gets home and out. She gets up early in the morning, works out, runs the kids around, 3 kids, and then works all day managing a branch of a bank. And then comes home, has to do dinner, get the kids to bed, and do all this stuff. And she's like, I just want to be with my kids. And at her first week of coaching, her kids had hand, foot, and mouth disease from, daycare. And she was like, I need to be home. This is ridiculous, And it just fueled her fire. Like, Brandy has a problem of time. And she's like, I want my time. And so she's like motivated to work this business. And you know what? She's killing it. And she's going to do it. And she's going to meet her goals. And you guys, she's been a coach for a month, like a month and a half. Like, it hasn't even been a month and a half. Like, you signed up the beginning of March. And so she's rocking it. So just make sure, you guys, that you find out about them. Just because they're busy doesn't mean they don't have problems. They probably have more problems than people that aren't busy. So ask them. And then relate stories of, how other team members. So that's a good thing. Like, find out, about other team members. You hear the national wake-up calls. You hear what other people are, where they've come from and the different struggles that they've had. We've had like a lot of, military wives that have been able to retire their husbands. How amazing is that? Here these, their husbands are deployed, missing the birth of their babies. And, and I can say this because it's happened to people on our team. There's a girl right now on Team Rock Hard Bodies. Her name is Liz, and she's about to have a baby, and her husband's deployed. And he's not going to be there for the birth. And he hasn't been there for a lot of the pregnancy. How hard is that? So that girl is motivated so she can bring her husband out, home, because he's been deployed many times, and he's got 3 more deployments on his, that he's probably going to have after he gets back from this one. And she's like, I can't live like this. It's horrible. And she's like, I miss my husband. And other women in this business have been able to retire their husbands. So look at the different stories. That's why it's important to look at those testimonies and hear where people have come. We have a lot of testimonies on our team alone that you can, even pull from, but relate those to people. That's why you ask them questions and say, well, I understand your husband's been deployed a lot, how I am, because I've heard that before, where it's like, I obviously don't know what that's like because my husband's not in the military, but I do know by talking to other coaches what they've been through. And I just share, I don't know what that's like, but I know that, Tara was able to bring her husband home and retire him from the military. And they're like, what? That would be amazing. And I'm like, yeah, that's an option. So just relate those stories. Facts tell, stories sell. I know you guys have seen that. I've heard that. But if you haven't, that's the truth. So don't just spew a bunch of facts. You need to be relatable, relate in stories. You also want to encourage new coaches and people that you're talking the opportunity about and build them up. That is the biggest thing. You need to build people up and encourage them, because deciding to become a coach and be an active coach is scary. You don't know what you're doing. You just signed up and you're nervous because you don't want to fail. You want to succeed, but you don't know how. So that's why it's important for the upline to encourage that person. It's not about jamming a bunch of training down their throat. It's about believing in them and being there to believe in them when they don't 100% believe in themselves. And just saying, hey, you know what? I totally believe you can do this. Like, I know you're going to crush this business. Another thing that you want to make sure is that you get your new coaches started right. So I'm going to go through that process with you right now. So pre-enrollment, this is what I call step 0, is build up their belief system. So I just talked about this. I touched on it. Believe in them, but be genuine, you guys. Be specific with them. You see their potential and tell them why you believe in them. So really sorry, Brandy, but you're going to be my example tonight. Because she's a good example of someone that's gone through this process just recently. And so, you know what? She could probably give feedback too. But Brandy is someone who I watched on Facebook, and I was like, that girl is someone I want on my team. And she talked to me a little bit before about coaching, but, she was like, I don't know. And then she's always been, really good at, she's really sweet, really personable. I've known her since our boys were in preschool, and now they're in junior high. And I totally believe that she could do it. And we've been in a running group together for the last year, and she started asking me about it. And she was interviewing me, and I was interviewing her. And she can tell you that. She knows a lot of coaches, a ton of coaches in our community. But she interviewed me up and down, and I interviewed her. It was awesome. That's the way it should be. And but I totally believed in Brandy. Like, I told her I believed in her. I said, girl, you already post great. Because she asked me about social media. She was worried about social media. I'm like, I don't know what you're worried about. Your social media looks great. You're great about sharing your journey. You have a good balance of posting your family already. I thought you were already coaching, because that's how good your social media looks. And she was like, she was a little surprised, but it was true. It was genuine. And then she shared with me how, in the beginning, during our meeting, that she was, she's just always short on time. And I really talked to her about, this is an opportunity that could give you more time with your kids and give you freedom of time. And that's what she was desiring. I know she has the potential. She runs a bank. And so every time she struggles, I'm like, girl, what would you do with your bank employees? Like, you know how to run people. And so this is just an example of someone, but I'm just kind of telling you how I did it. And I shared other stories with her of women that have been able to retire out of their full-time job or make the kind of income that she's looking to replace her current income with. I shared those with her, and we started building the vision and goals. And so that's what I did. So believe in them. If you see their potential, tell them why. If you see how this opportunity can benefit them, tell them how. And just share success stories that relate to them, and then start building the vision. If they don't have a vision, well, first off, here's the deal. If you don't have a vision, you better find one. Because if you can't not have a vision and then invite people to get on a bus with you, and you don't know where you're going. Like, that's not fun. Nobody wants to just go for a drive. They don't want to invest their time and money and just drive around aimlessly. So you need to make sure you have a vision, okay? So get a vision if you don't have one. That's another call that I've done, and you can listen to that one. I'll tag you in it if you need it. But make sure you have a vision, but then you also need to help your coaches build vision. And it looks different for people. So find out what they want, what their goals are, not what your goals are, but what their goals are, and help them build that vision in their head. And then also, don't label people as discount coaches all the time. That's another thing I want to tell you. Some of my best coaches are discount coaches. Misty Jackman is on this call, and she was a discount coach. I was a discount coach. Don't label people like that, because I was a discount coach for a hot minute. And then I was a serious business builder. And Misty was a discount coach her pictures just popped up the other day of the first post she did from Shailene Extreme about how she thought, she's like, I got that girl to sign up just to get a discount on Shakeology. And then she turned out to be one of my core people that helped me build my team. She's been with me for a long time. And what if I would have just said, oh, well, she's a discount coach, I'm never going to take her any further? Then I would be doing her a disservice and myself a disservice. So make sure that you don't label people that way. Step number 1, so that was step 0, build up belief system. And don't worry, guys, I'll post this. Step number 1, you want to send them the welcome email. I have a welcome email. You are welcome to copy it and make it your own. Whatever you want to do, it's yours for the taking. But I worked really hard on it, and I think it's pretty darn good. But you might not, but it fits my people. So make sure it fits your people, and find a welcome, make sure you have a welcome email. Because let me tell you something. If someone does not get that welcome email filled out to me, I stop the process. We do not move on to step 2 until that welcome email is back in my inbox. And I will cancel appointments. I will cancel calls. I need that email, because I cannot move further until they have filled out that email. Why? Because if you cannot read one email that tells you how to start your business from me, then you are not in a space to be teachable or coachable. That is a filtering system, you guys. That's how you funnel people out, okay? So that just stops in the process. So don't move any further if they haven't filled that out, because that email shows them how to set up, it gives them their links to their websites. It tells them about the online office. It gives them, just some quick tips. It introduces the team. It's got the link to the Facebook pages. I will tell you, Brandy's like, where's the email? Like, I told her I'd send her an email, and she's like, oh, I need that email. And I'm like, oh, I'm getting it to you, girl. And she had that thing right back to me. Okay. And I was like, oh, awesome. So she blew through the process. And you will find coaches. I have other coaches that have done that too. But some, they won't ever get it back to you. And that's just a clue. And I will remind people, I'll be like, hey, did you get the email? I just want to make sure you at least got it. Oh yeah. I'm like, okay, when do you think you're going to get that? Can you get that back to me by Thursday? And I also set the expectation, say, hey, can you get, make sure you get that email back to me by such and such date, and make it like 48 hours. I would say any longer than that, they're not going to do it. I mean, that's just going to sit in their box. So do that. I have a little GSR video in there about, like, hi, I'm Tanya, introducing myself, but I will post my welcome email in the file section in Team 360, and you are welcome to take it and do whatever you want. Make it your own. Make sure you sign your own name, though. And I just say, let me know when you finish that email so we can move on to the next step. And so then the next step is I set up a getting started right call. So GSR is that term, getting started right, GSR. So you can do a GSR call. You could do a Zoom call. I get people on the phone and I tell them, this call is going to be 10 to 15 minutes. And you guys, I abide by that. I will not go longer than 15 minutes. A, because I want to be respectful of their time. And B, because if I go longer than that, they're not going to remember what I told them to do. So in that call, you make sure you've got energy. You need to take Energize, you should take some Energize, but you need to make sure that you're excited and you're happy to be there. Because no one wants to be on the call with like, hey, how's your day going? Oh yeah. And then you're yelling at your kids in the background. Yeah, kids are okay. Like my kids are around all the time, and I've done GSR calls in my closet, hiding in my clothes. I've done team calls in my closet. I've literally hid in different places in my home. I said, Mommy's on a GSR call. Yeah, 15 minutes my kids can deal with. But just make sure that you've got a lot of energy. And yeah, you will have kids cry, like I've had that happen, and that's okay. Just say, sorry. Good part about owning your own business, and people laugh. But just make sure that you're respectful to them and you give them your full attention and you're not distracted. So on that call, high energy welcome, and I state the agenda. I say, hey, this is your getting started right call. I want to make sure we get the next steps. This call will be about 10 to 15 minutes. I want to be conscious of your time. And make sure I'll leave, I just want to make sure that I get you started off right and get you your goals. And then the first thing that we talk about, so you're setting the expectation that that's all this call is going to be. And really what I do in that call is I just say, I build up the belief system again with them. I'm like, you're doing an awesome job. I'm really excited about having you on my team, because I am. I recruit kick-ass people, so I'm excited to have them. I love new coaches. They inspire me. And so I just talk about that, quick thing on, how they're doing, and I believe in them, and I'm excited. And thank you for getting this form back to me, because this is what really helps me. And in that form, it talks about what kind of coach they want to be. It talks about their story. I find out a lot more information. If I find out if they want to be someone that's looking to make $500 a month or a full-time coach. If there's someone that wants to go all in, how many hours they have, it tells me a ton about the person. It's like a job application. I know where they're coming from, because I need to know where they're coming from so I can help them meet their goals. So I just talk about that. I'm like, thanks for getting over the form. I see here that you're looking to make, let's say Brandy, I see you're looking to replace your full-time income. Can you tell me how much that is? Do you want to share with me how much that is so I can get you on a plan? Okay, well, this is what we need to do. And the first thing with any coach is they need to hit Emerald and Success Club. That is the first milestone. If you say you want to coach, if you want to get your Shakeology paid for, whatever you want to do, that's what you need to do. That is the bare minimum. Why? That is another filtering system. And it's not that hard, you guys, to hit Emerald. It's 2 coaches, one on your right, one on your left, and then the third can be a coach or it can be a customer. And that's how I say it. You can ask Brandy. That's all I said. You just need to find 3 people. Make a list of 10 people, invite them to join you in a challenge group. Now, I don't dump a bunch of invites on them. I don't dump a bunch of training on them. I just say, because they should be able to do that in their warm market and with their excitement and motivation. So I just say 3 people. You just need to find 3 people. 2 need to be coaches, one on your right, one on your left. Don't worry, I will help you place them. And then the third can be a coach or a customer. I said the reason you want to do that is because that will help you with your first 2 goals. You will hit Emerald and a thing called Success Club. We have so many cute kids on this call. Sorry, I'm getting distracted. Because what that will do is that will get you free leads from Beachbody. And that's one of the cool perks about being a Beachbody coach. You get free leads. So next month, you will get people that assigned to you. And new coaches are like, what? You get free leads? They just hand you people? And like, yeah, they just hand you people. They are so excited about that. And I explained to them, that's one of the perks of coaching. I have leads that have been buying from me since I first started that I got, like my first month of coaching. And people, and if you compound that, it's all about compounding. That's pretty cool, you guys, over 4 years. Awesome. So we talk about that. And I say, I will help you. Just make sure that you make a list of 10 people and reach out to them. And then you can share with them who you signed up to start with. Like I went Emerald right away. I signed up my mom and my husband and Misty. So, you can just share with them. And they're like, okay. And usually what happens is they do that right away. And I tell them, I set the expectation. A lot of people are able to do that in 1 to 3 days, a week max. So you're all, don't give them 30 days. Like that's just going to make them procrastinate and be slower on their goals. So just give them that expectation of, set the expectation. If you set it in their mind, they will meet that if they're motivated. So that's what you want to do. And then I let them know, the other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put you in the Coach Basics. It starts on, the first Monday of the month. So that's going to be this date and blah, blah, blah. So I get them started that way. And then we get them in Coach Basics. Now, coaches that start off and say they want it, you should not have to be stalking them. They should be stalking you. There's a difference. They should be messaging you. I can't tell you how many times new coaches that want it and are successful in this business right now, they message me hundreds of times. They're just like, okay, what about this? What about that? And that's good. I love questions because that means they're motivated. That means they're doing something. That means that they're excited. When you have to go find those coaches and you're like, hey, you said you want it, what happened? You signed up and you're like MIA. And you guys know if you've been around for a while what I'm talking about. So I tell coaches that. I'm like, ask me questions. You contact me. Let me know what questions you have because you're going to have questions. Brandy, for example, she apologizes. She's like, I'm so sorry. I know I'm not bugging you. And I'm like, you're not bugging me. You're in a learning process. And you should be asking me questions. If she wasn't asking me questions, I would be like, okay, well, she must not want it that bad. So make sure that you, that's kind of also another thing, but do reach out to people and say, hey, I just want to make sure that you got my message or you saw the Coach Basics group, or if they're not engaging, make sure they're engaging. I tell them make sure you read those posts. They will help you be successful. And then check in with them behind the scenes. If they're not checking in with you, check in with them and see how they're doing. Some of them you won't need to check in with because they're always checking in with you. And that's amazing. Those are your movers and shakers. Yeah, that's Brandy. And if they aren't checking in with you, don't stalk them, but do you kind of, just kind of see where they're at. Say, hey, I just want to check in with you, see how you're doing. Did you get your package? and, whatever you need to do. And then you can go from there and decide, okay, is this something, you can ask them point blank, say, is this something you still want to do? Or, I'm happy to put you in a challenge group, a fitness group, whatever, how can I best support you? Ask them. Don't assume, just ask them. And see, like I had a coach that signed up and he was like, yeah, I want this so bad. He actually signed up the same week as Brandy. And he was like, I want this so bad. And I'm going to do everything you say and blah, blah, blah. And then no email. And then I checked in with him, no response, nothing. And then I was like, okay. And then I checked in with him again. Cause then I'm just like, hey, I want to make sure you got your pack. And he's like, oh yeah, I haven't opened it yet. And red flag. And then I checked in with, and then of course, then he says, I don't understand why I got charged out of my checking account for Shakeology and the club, what's this club membership? And I'm like, remember that email I sent you? And I asked you if you read it? It was all in there. But I just say, oh yeah, that's your, I explain it's your Shakeology. And I'm like, I just want to see, is this something you still want to do? Or are you wanting, maybe just to work on your own journey or, I just asked him. Because I don't want to waste his time. I don't want to bug him, but I also don't want to waste my time. So, and that's okay if they're not ready then. I will tell you, I've had coaches that weren't ready and then they come back like fireballs. And that's okay. But if they're not ready right now, don't try to offer the support, but you need to meet them where they are. I always tell coaches, and if you're on my team, you know this, I will run with you if you run. I will walk with you if you walk. I will jog with you if you want to jog. But I am not going to drag you. And I'm not going to pull you along with me. I'm not going to be sitting there pulling you by the arm, dragging you along. Because I've already, that's not serving either one of us. And I value my time and I value yours. So make sure that you are, you don't do that. There's a lot of people that I see so much potential in, and I know they could be so amazing with this business. But I would have to drag them because they're just not at that place. And that's not fun for anybody. And that will just end up with you being deflated and they probably won't ever talk to you again. So don't do that. But those are how I get coaches. That's how I get a coach started. Keep it super simple. And make sure you're keeping if you get it with the phone, please keep your calls to 10 to 15 minutes. I usually try to do 10 to 12 minutes of me talking, and then I leave a little bit of time for questions for them. And then I tell them, you're going to have more questions. Please just, message me your questions. And I also establish a line of communication. Do they prefer texting? Well, what do you, you got to set the standard. If you're someone that is working full time and you can't have your phone on you at your job, then maybe you need them to email you or Facebook message you. If you're someone that can't check Facebook because Facebook is blocked at your work, then maybe text is best. So establish that line of communication with your coaches and keep it the same for all of your coaches, because you don't want to have all these different lines of communication going on and then you're totally stressed out. And think about what's best for you too. Say, hey, yeah, the best way to get a hold of me is just send me a message on Facebook. Or, you know what, I can't have Facebook. I don't check Facebook at work, so you can text me. And I will get back to you during my business hours. Also set that expectation. Because how you start them off is how they're going to start their coaches off. So you want to make sure that you're setting them off with a process that's not going to burn people out and is duplicatable and get them started off on the right foot. Another thing I just want to leave you with is if they're willing to invest in themselves, then they will do well, which is PD. If they're not willing to invest in themselves, they're not going to make it. I have not seen a coach that has gotten to the level of success by not doing personal development. And I'm just going to say that right now because it is such a crucial key to this business. It's a vital behavior. And so make sure that once they get to Emerald and Success Club, which they do right away, they get their sheer motivation, you guys, and with your beliefs, is get them started on personal development. And recommend books. There's so many books out there. Find out what they struggle with. If it's time management, The Slight Edge is a great book. If people are like, I don't like sales, then, The Greatest Salesman in the World. This is a really short book. It's really easy. There's lots of free stuff on YouTube. The Compound Effect by Darren Hardy is a great one to start off with. We suggest them. We go over it in Coach Basics. The key is you want to make sure that once we suggest it, we offer a lot of suggestions in there, is that they're actually doing it. So like I talked to Brandy, and Brandy's like, I'm on YouTube all the time. I'm like doing this, I'm doing that. So the girl is like set with personal development. She's not. But I had another new coach that like fell off the wagon right away. And I'm like, did you read, because I had recommended a book for her based on what she was struggling with. I'm like, oh, how's that book going for you? Have you had a chance to dig into it? And she's like, no. And I'm like, try, if you can just try like 10 minutes of it, I know it'll help you, or I'll send them YouTubes that I think would be helpful. But honestly, it's the PD. That's what makes the difference. PD, because that's what's going to help you take action. And I know a lot, PD means personal development. Sorry. So using terms, GSR is getting started right, and PD is personal development. So those are my suggestions on how to build your team, finding coaches. We have a coach group a sneak peek that started this week. So you can add people in, and you can even add them in late. Just say, hey, I had this coach sneak peek. I thought of you, and I really would love for you to join. I think you would make an amazing coach because of XYZ. You're so inspiring. You're so motivating. Would you be interested in being added? And then once they say yes, say, okay, it started yesterday. Just start with the day 0 post. It's really easy to get caught up. They're not very long. And I'll be right there with you. Let me know if you have any questions. And then tag them on that day 0 post. That's it. Keep it simple. All right. Does anybody have any questions? You are welcome to use the chat, or I'm happy to unmute you. I know we have phone callers and we've got people. If you have a question, anybody, you can put it through the chat or unmute yourself, or I will unmute you if you want to raise your hand. Anybody? Well, I'm going to unmute Brandy really quick, and just because she just got taken through this exact process. So she's probably like, oh. So I kind of I know she has her little daughter on her lap. She's so cute. So I want you, what did you think? Like, did you know this process you got through?
I'm sorry, Ashlyn.
It's okay.
So much. Ask that question again.
So I just went over that process, which you just went through as a participant. Do you have any feedback?
I would say the process that you put me through was really easy, because, when I did start out, I was like kind of overwhelmed of what do I need to do? And you're like, just get 3 people. And I was like, oh, okay, I can get 3. So then I started asking, and then all of a sudden I have like 5. I was like, oh my gosh, okay. So I think following along with your Coach Basics so that I could get an understanding without having to bother you constantly, because I do have a lot of questions. And so following your Coach Basics, and then you just laying out a pretty basic guideline of what I needed to do and the goal that I needed to hit was made it successful for me. So, and plus I'm a goal-oriented person. And so if you're like, you need to hit SC10, I'm like, okay. So then, so for you to just give me those goals, and then the tools to get there is what made it so easy for me.
Awesome. And that was another thing I do want to touch on, is that when they hit SC6 really quickly, I always push them to SC10. I don't bring up SC10 on that first call, but what I do is I'll say, hey, if you find 2 more people, then you get free Shakeology leads. And they're like, what do you mean by that? I'm like, you earn the commission right away. And Brandy was like, what? She was all over that in like 2 seconds. And that's all it is just, I'm like, Brandy, you're a Success Club 10 person. You're not a Success Club 6 person. I know you can do this. And she did. And it was awesome. So just make sure, that's again goes with building the belief and keeping it simple. Keep it simple. It's easy to overcomplicate, especially if you have been in this business for a while, or if you're someone that is an information-driven person. You want to keep it simple. Or if you're a talker like I am, and anybody, my new coaches, I feel like, or my old coaches, I feel like I have to apologize. I'm surprised they stuck. Sorry, I got like really dark all of a sudden. I'm like surprised they stuck with me because I talk so much, but they did. So, just make sure that you're keeping it super simple and keep it short. Are there any, I know it's 8:00, sorry. Are there any other questions? Anybody on the chat? All right, you guys. Nice, Amanda. Her beast mode baby, that's her name for her baby, has pooped during every GSR she's ever had. And that is pretty typical with having kids. I can attest to that. So you never know what can happen, and that's fine. Like, you just have to roll with it. And but definitely, those kids, they keep you on your toes. So I want to thank you all for sticking with me tonight on the call. I know it was long, but they're always about this long. But I just say, go through and really go through those steps that I laid out for you. Find your coaches and get them in the coach sneak peek. And I promise I will do a really good job in there. I won't let you down. And I'll also be providing tips in Team 360 and in our accountability group, for those of you that are in the accountability group, about what you need to do with those people in the sneak peek throughout the week. I'll do little reminders like, hey, send this message, check in this, make sure you're checking in, to kind of guide you through the process and make sure that you don't forget any of the steps, because it is new. So that is everything I have for you guys tonight. Don't forget, if you are registering for Summit, registration opens tomorrow at 9 a.m. And also, we do have a Summit page exclusively for our team. And we can get you added. If you're not in there, talk to your upline and they'll get you added. Or just post in the team page and say, hey, I'm not in the Summit page yet. But it's a great way for us to all connect. And if you don't have lodging, or if you need transportation or anything, there's lots of options in there that we can share. But make sure you get registered for the track that you want. And there's an app you can download on your phone for Beachbody Summit. And you get that on your phone and you can look at the different tracks. And then you can also, that's going to be kind of your guideline when you're in Nashville, to remind you where you want to go. Summit's awesome, by the way. If you haven't gone yet and this is your first year, it is so much fun. It's one of my favorite events, and it's a really good time. And if you, it's a great way to build team camaraderie, and you learn a ton. It's like so much great information. You have the best of the best teaching you. So have a good night, everybody. Thanks again for coming, and I will see you later. Bye.